Love the hockey sticks in the background. Love the shirt. We're all good.
Here we go.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to A Surgeon and a SEAL. This is Captain Tom Chaby. My name is Allan Mishra, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist, also the founder of Dare to Be Vital. Captain Chaby, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Dr. Allan Mishra's good friend. I live in Florida. I'm a retired Navy SEAL, spent 26 years as a leader in the Navy. And currently, for the last 5 years, I've been a consultant working with organizations, helping with performance optimization and team effectiveness.
Awesome. So this is A Surgeon and a SEAL. Captain Chaby and I have been friends for many years, and we are going to attack something important today. We're going to learn how to thrive with, wait for it, pain, pressure, and uncertainty. So how do we thrive when there's pain, pressure, and uncertainty everywhere? I've got a few ideas, and what we're going to try to bring to this 30 or 40-minute discussion is a perspective from a surgeon and a perspective from a Navy SEAL. So how would you like to start?
Well, we threw this out there essentially a couple hours ago as a topic.
We always do that, though. We never rehearse, and we never give away our secrets to each other. That's the key here. Ahead of time.
I've given a little bit of thought to what you said and what you proposed we talk about today, and it's an exciting topic. It's an important topic. This is our third iteration, correct?
And it's going to be our best yet.
Best yet, not the third, the best. I like it. For me, I hear pain, pressure, and uncertainty. I think step one with navigating and thriving in those environments is being aware when they exist. I think most people simply get overwhelmed by their lives, by circumstances in their lives. And when they do, they don't even realize they need to respond. They don't even realize that they need to perhaps apply a new strategy, a new tactic. And I just want to start the conversation off with, I think awareness is critical.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I have a little saying about it, pain, pressure, and uncertainty. And I'm like, okay, you got to start by stopping. So what do I mean by that? I go, we all want to try to avoid pain, pressure, and uncertainty. So what I think about first is stop the madness. You're never going to be able to avoid pain, pressure, and uncertainty. It's just part of living. We're all going to be seeing it. In this past year, we've seen a ton of it, especially pain in the form of death from COVID and other issues or other problems. Pressure for sure. People who have been in different situations, and uncertainty to the max, epic uncertainty, but they're not unavoidable. So if they're not unavoidable, what are we supposed to do? And so what I see as a doc is sometimes people freeze. All right, so they see pain, they see pressure, they see uncertainty. It's the fight or flight thing. They want to run away from it, or they're just going to freeze up. So what I try to talk to people about when they see it in the context of an injury or an uncertainty around an injury and then maybe a surgery is, okay, let's admit we got to deal with it. And then what I try to teach people is to metabolize it, big doctor word, which means digest pain, pressure, and uncertainty with action. So instead of not doing anything, choose to do something. And then I got a few things that I thought about in terms of, all right, what can or should people do if they're experiencing pain, pressure, or uncertainty, which we all are. Instead of, I try to help people with like a drop-down menu. So I don't know, what do you think about that?
I like it. I like choose to do something. I have a concept a good friend of mine, Drew Graham, and I talk about all the time. And we say have BFA. What's BFA? It doesn't stand for big fat arse. It stands for bias for action.
Bias for action. I like that.
Like do something. And doing nothing. You said that, you referenced the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. The freeze piece of it is, in my opinion, unacceptable. Like take that off the table. Right. Do something. I feel that's a critical step probably step two, be aware. Step two, do something.
Right.
And for me, I think prepare the battlefield, plant some seeds, and do that now. Like right now, we're at home. COVID's hopefully, we've seen the worst of it now. We're getting a little bit back to normalcy. We experienced a lot during COVID. A lot of us did in different ways. And that's not a bad thing. Yes, if people lost a loved one, that's a bad thing. But for those that persevered through and were blessed to come out the other side healthy, let's learn from what we experienced and try to change the context of pain, pressure, and uncertainty. And for me, I look at all three of them as opportunity.
Yep.
I truly, truly do. And some people may say that sounds disingenuous, but it's not. The world I came from, the military, the SEAL community, I was an instructor. And frankly, my job as a SEAL instructor, then the deputy commander of SEAL training, was to simulate and fabricate pain, pressure, and uncertainty.
There you go.
Figure it out, watch how they respond, and then take a step back, analyze it, give them some strategies,
Yep.
like do something, don't freeze.
Yep.
That's the worst thing you could do in the middle of the battlefield. You may want to stay put, but stay put behind cover with a purpose. And that's purposeful, not freezing because you're scared. So I want to talk for a second about change the context. I'm curious what you think about that, changing the context of those three elements.
I think it's crucial because there's one thing you can do, which would be have like a bias towards action or to, metabolize it and just do something, but that something can be bad. I mean, that something could be the pain, pressure, or uncertainty evolves into anxiety, catastrophe, and panic. Okay. So this thing goes on, whether it's pain, pressure, or anxiety, and then, or pain, pressure, or uncertainty. And then it leads to anxiety, which leads to catastrophizing, which leads to panic. So that's the one way I'm trying to, keep people off of. So, you tore your ACL. Okay. That's painful. There's, some pressure associated with that, maybe some swelling in your knee. And then there's some uncertainty. Do you need surgery? Are you going to need surgery? If you're going to need surgery, how long is it going to be? But instead of taking you down the panic and catastrophe line, we need a positive way. So too often when we talk about it, what are the skill sets? Because I think it's a skill to learn how to metabolize pain, pressure, and uncertainty. And I like your idea of changing it. So it's a mindset thing. So you're going to avoid this. And then what I like to try to teach people, including myself, is look for opportunities for growth. So there's a concept you're very, very familiar with post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress disorder, but there's a less well-known concept of post-traumatic growth. So in that, changing the mindset of it, looking for opportunities for growth in the context of pain, pressure, or uncertainty is what I'm still personally trying to learn. I see it every day myself and for my patients and for the students I teach through my Dare to Be Vital work. And it's an evolving skill because we're never going to get away from it. I don't know. Did I talk around that or right at it? I don't even know how I answered that question.
I like what you had to say. And I'm going to use this as a shameless opportunity to advertise my latest endeavor, building a course, which I did, How to Own Pressure 101. And in it, I talk about that. And for me, I'm obsessed with how do you navigate those three things? Just as humans, we have baked into our DNA through evolution responses. The fight, or freeze mechanism is baked into each and every one of us, obviously in different levels. And if you're not aware of that, and it's amazing we don't teach this in school, because it's such a critical component. It's connected to performance optimization. It's connected to staying healthy, frankly. You would see people on the battlefield that were being precarious positions for extended periods of time. For example, standing on the corner in Baghdad or Fallujah for 6, 7, 8 hours at a time, that is a stressful thing. And if you don't know how to navigate what's happening and your mindset when it goes into fight or flight, what's happening to you and what's happening to your endocrinology and what's happening to your physiology as you respond to the signals, because our mindset is the input to our brain, which will tell our brain to go into fight or flight,
Right.
or to tell us to go to a different place that in specific situations would be a healthier option. So this takes me all the way back to the awareness piece, being aware of what's going on. If a grizzly bear is coming at me through the woods or a thief with a knife, I want to go into fight or flight. That's probably where I need to be. But if I'm in the end of the fourth quarter of a football game and I'm on the final drive and the money's on me and I got to make the throw or make the catch, I don't want to go into fight or flight.
Right.
I want to stay composed. I want my vision to be perfect. I don't want to go into tunnel vision, which, as you know, is one of those negative symptoms, particularly with performance, that comes from fight or flight.
Right.
So awareness, education, and changing the context are three things I think that we're exploring today. And this is fantastic.
So I got my second thought was this concept, which you're going to appreciate. I learned from you and from studying what you did for many, many years, is to embrace the suck. Embrace the fact that it's terrible. Embrace the fact that it's cold. Embrace the fact that it's painful. Embrace the fact that you're under pressure or uncertainty. And there's a couple of things I've learned as I try to teach myself. And by the way, this is what I do with Vitality Explorers, and vitalityexplorers.com is a little thing where I put together my homework for the week where people can learn from that. But when I say embrace the suck, I realize, again, it's something I'm not going to be able to avoid. So instead of saying, well, I don't like this, I don't like this, what am I going to learn from this? Here's a couple things I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Number one is pain helps us realize when we're not in pain, and we should celebrate that. So I've had neck surgery and back surgery, and I know what it feels like to have a herniated disc in my neck and my back. And sometimes I forget those days when I'm not in pain, and which is most often now. And I don't celebrate them as much as I should. So pain reminds us of what it is like. And this isn't my idea. This is, a philosophical thing. The second is to try to figure out what I call, specific ways, tool sets. What's the toolbox you can do when you're in that middle of what you think is the saber-toothed tiger running at you, but it's really maybe just your boss screaming at you, or something happened on the football field or something. So some of them work in the moment, and some of them work over time. The one that works in the moment, which is physiologically quite valuable, is deep breathing. And so when you take this sort of the concept of going, okay, 2 sniffs in and a deep breath out. I'm not a yoga meister, but listen to the physiology of why that works. When you take 2 breaths in and blow it out quickly or fast, what you're doing is inflating the alveoli, the little sacs in your lungs, a little bit more, and then you're getting rid of more carbon dioxide. Now, why is that important? Too much carbon dioxide, it creates panic, okay? You don't panic when you can't breathe because of lack of oxygen. You panic because you have too much carbon dioxide. The second piece of data on this is that it's not proven in humans, but some of my colleagues over at Stanford show that there's a direct connection in the back of your breathing center part of your brain to the frontal lobe. And when you do these deep breathing exercises, at least in little furry rodents, it decreases the frontal lobe activity. So when you're in this fight or flight mode, you're going, no. How can you calm yourself down? Get rid of some of the CO2 and also calm down that frontal lobe activity so you can make a better decision. So that's an in the moment one. The second one, which I try to do every day, is to write it down, okay? To try to write down something physically or in a journal, typing it in. It helps you collect your thoughts. It helps you realize later what was going on. The third one is what I forget all the time. Captain, I know this, I've done this over and over and over again. If I'm in the middle of a maybe not physical pain, but mental stress, get outside, take a walk, take a hike, get on your bike, do something physical exhaustion will break that cycle in your brain of the mental stress. So again, the three are deep breathing, writing it down, and then exercise. I don't want to go for a run around Fallujah, but maybe there's some sense to this, or maybe I'm way off base. What do you think?
No, I think you're great. And, I put those, I love the way you said in the moment, because I think they're perfect for in the moment. They're intervention strategies, like
Yes.
stop the insanity, have BFA, have a bias for action, do something. Okay. Then I would argue, or perhaps a better way to say this, then I would suggest you need to go for a longer term solution.
Yes.
And for me, and I think you agree with me, everything we're talking about stems from mindset. Perception is everything. Perception is everything. If I perceive a situation to be threatening, I am going to send threatening signals back to my brain, and that will send me into fight, or freeze. If I perceive a situation to be non-threatening, like right this moment as we talk on the Zoomcast, I send a signal to my brain, it's non-threatening. Relax, enjoy yourself, be creative, give the best product you can, have fun with Allan, all those things. And that's what we're doing.
Yep.
So one of the things I've learned is I study pressure and I study uncertainty, is the human condition loves to focus on outcomes.
Yes.
You love setting yourself up for problems, because the minute that outcome is in jeopardy of not happening, you could go into fight, or freeze. The minute that outcome is in jeopardy of not happening, oh no, that thing I really wanted is going to become something that I can't get now. You're going to start to panic. So one of the things I like to do, and I try to do this, I'm a positive guy. I think about outcome. I want to win. But the reality of it is that is not going to help me win in the middle of whatever the competition is or the situation is. What's going to help me get the outcomes I'm after is focusing on the process. So I focus on process. Let's use playing football. It's a great analogy. You and I talk football all the time. What's the process of being a wide receiver? Hey, we got to win this game. If you're sitting there, back to the fourth quarter example, there's 1:20 left. You're down by 7 points. You have to score a touchdown. You're the key receiver. The call is the ball's coming your way. I got to catch it. We got to win. If you think that, yeah, it might happen, but you're setting yourself up for problems. But if you think of, all right, what is the process? Get off the ball, run a crisp route, maybe throw the coverage guy off a little bit by throwing my speed off, my tempo off a little bit. Maybe I've set him up through the game for this very moment. Get up and make sure I'm looking for the ball when I know it's going to be thrown to me. Be where the quarterback thinks I'm going to be. Watch the ball all the way into my hands. Secure it, then run. And then run to the best of my ability, protecting the ball and trying to get a touchdown or out of bounds to stop the clock. Those things are the things I would focus on. And you know what? You do each of those things correctly, the outcome you're after is much, much more likely to happen. And when you do that, you reduce the pressure, because the pressure of that outcome that you really, 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 really want is just going to become a burden on your back.
So here's a scenario. Let me throw this at you. That same wide receiver has dropped the ball twice, and the second time he dropped it, he actually tipped it, and it was led to an interception. Now the game's on the line. He has personally been responsible for one incompletion and one interception that has led to the team being down. How does, and by the way, I think of cornerbacks as being better able to forget getting burned by a touchdown than a wide receiver being able to forget about a drop ball. But so that guy's lining up. There's 40 seconds, 30 seconds left. There's only going to be a play or two, three maybe left. And how do you avoid catastrophizing and panicking? Because let's say you're good on the process, but your process failed you, or you failed on the process and you know you failed on the process. How do you get back to trusting that process the third time after you've had a mistake and you know you've made a mistake? That's a tough question.
It is tough, and it's something that happens every Saturday.
Yes.
There's,
I think you can be making $10 million a year if you get the right answer to that question.
Yeah. and for me, you know, I don't mean it as a cop out, but trust what works. Focusing on the process over the outcome works. Staying in the present, and that's the beauty of the question you just posed. You know, you may go back or go forward by focusing on the process a little bit. Be certain to stay in the present. Like that tipped ball that resulted in an interception, you can't change that. There's nothing you can do. You know, I was a wide receiver when I played football. I dropped hundreds of balls, not in games, but in practice. You know, over the years, probably is hundreds of balls. And if I thought about every one I dropped, I'd never be able to catch another ball in my entire life. But you know, you've also caught thousands of great balls. So, you know, I'm a big believer that positive thinking is overrated. That's the second thing, process over outcome. I think positive thinking is overrated. It's great. I'm positive right now. But the minute I'm in the heat of something, the battlefield, Iraq, Afghanistan, a football game, a sales negotiation, something of that nature, and it's getting challenging, there's uncertainty, there's pressure, I go neutral. I don't think positive. I go neutral. Never go negative. Throw that one off the table right away. Yep. But neutrality is your friend because it helps you stay focused on the process. It helps you stay focused on those micro actions you need to achieve. Just like the wide receiver catch in the pass, there's 6, 7, 8 different things you have to do. If you just go to the outcome or you just think positively, I'm going to catch it, make a touchdown, you may miss a step or two.
Yep.
If you miss a step or two, like watching the ball in your hands, like the ball's coming to me, and then you start running, you dropped it.
Right.
So what do you do?
Part of that is also repetition and consistency in the process. Like you say, trust the process. When we talk about surgeons are very, very, shall we say, methodical about what we do, perhaps even worried to the point where every single thing has to be the same. And the reason why is we want that process to be replicated. Even if I've done something 3,000 times, how the drape is put together, how the leg is set up, or how the shoulder is set up, so that you know when you're going through that. And I have step by step by step by step by what we're doing. I think one of the things that I've learned about pressure is that there's really forms of pressure, and they're in a physical sense, it's a little physics, but it's like force per unit area, right? So a bullet is a lot of momentum in a small amount of area, cause a lot of damage. All right. A sumo wrestler sitting on you is a large amount of mass over a large area. But I think we kind of understand that. But when it comes to mental pressure, we don't have a construct. So I'd like to hear what you think about this. Is mental stress or mental pressure is stress divided by time. So the amount of stress could be a little bit, like I call it, I've had days, a couple of days ago, I was like in the piranha tank. All right, nothing terrible went wrong, but it was all day long. I was getting bit by the little piranha in the tank all day long. And then at the end of the day, I've had to make 1,000 decisions. And some of them very important, some of them not so important. And then you come home and the question is, well, we're going to do takeout tonight, or love it. Little shout out to DoorDash, got the DoorDash pass, which is amazing. Okay. So you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, in 30 minutes, they're going to deliver whatever I want to my door, and Mexican or Chinese. Now, I don't really care, but my wife is like, Mexican or Chinese? And I'm like, I say, I really don't care. Well, I want you to decide. I've run out of my decision-making capacity. And the final little stress of Mexican or Chinese. It's not bad, but it's the final piranha that caused me to bleed out. And she's like, why are you so upset? I just asked you whether you want Mexican or Chinese. So it wasn't the question. It was the consistent stress all day long, leading to a headache and like, I don't want to make another decision. So I don't know, maybe I'm just telling a story and my wife might watch this at some point, but nothing exciting happened. But I think I have a set amount of decisions I can make in a day. And at the end of the day, I just don't want to make any more decisions.
I like that. I hear that, and two things come to mind when I hear you sharing that story. By the way, I would have chose Mexican, but that's just when I hear that story, I'm reminded I'm exactly the same way, particularly when I was in the military. And the first thing that comes to mind is I have been getting peppered all day long. And now here I am with my wife, and the people that were peppering me were teammates who I had to bring together in a collaborative environment so we could work as this highly tuned team conducting special operations around the world. I couldn't lash out at them about a question that I might have thought was less than important because I'm trying to preserve our culture. Where here I am now with my wife, and maybe you'll concur with this, maybe you won't, where now it's, I don't want to call it a safe space, but like the consequences of lashing out and letting it go with my wife are less dire at that moment. And I'll be forgiven ultimately for that transgression. And it makes me realize questions, choices. We make 35,000 choices every day. Did you know that?
Wow.
I read that and I was like, no way. So what I did is I took a 5-minute period and I just thought, and I came up with like hundreds of questions. Like right now, I'm choosing to put my hand like this. I'm choosing to talk about choosing. I'm choosing to take my pen, my hand. These are all choices, and most of them are meaningless.
Yes.
And you said it earlier. Same thing. It's what are those key choices? We talked about awareness at the beginning. I think being aware of the choices you need to make and taking your time then and making that quality decision at those moments is critical to thriving with pain, pressure, and uncertainty.
I gotta try one other story out on you. Now I know you're a Navy SEAL, and what do SEALs think of like a Marine colonel?
I respect Marine colonels. I'm a fan of the Marines.
Okay, so this is a friend of mine. I went to college with him, and I was talking to him about this topic about a year or so ago. And he was a commander of a Marine infantry battalion in Iraq. Okay, so he's doing some serious work there, right? I'm not even 100% sure I know what that means, but he was at a forward, infantry unit. And
Impressive.
I'm sorry.
He's a very accomplished leader.
Okay, but he's in the fight, right? I mean, he's not sitting behind a desk. And so he said to me, I would be, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I'd be sitting in my bunk reading a book, and some panicked lieutenant would come in screaming at me, "We're under fire. A couple guys got hit. What are we going to do, Colonel?" And he would look up from his book, look down at his book again. Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate that. I'll be with you in a minute. Thank you for the information. And then the lieutenant would leave his little, bunk area. And I said, well, how did you do that? He said, as a leader, and this is something we're going to talk about more maybe in our next episode of A Surgeon and a SEAL, is leaders need to search. This is his words, Colonel Bill Vivian, but leaders need to search for opportunities to demonstrate calm. Search for opportunities to demonstrate calm. So what I do the same thing in the operating room when I'm talking to the residents and somebody hits a tiny little bleeder or something, even a bigger bleeder. You got to search for an opportunity to demonstrate calm, because panicking is not going to help you. You got to figure out how to solve the situation. And as a leader, if you demonstrate calm, then the people who are working with you or for you are going to be calmer. Now, here's my question. This is a tougher question. When you get that question from your family, your wife, your son, your daughter, your dog, and they do something that's going to drive you crazy, this is what I'm working on. I'm searching for opportunities to demonstrate calm. Okay. And that is a skill. I don't do that very well. But if something occurs that is not what I want to have happen, instead of trying to get upset about it, I'm searching for that opportunity to demonstrate calm, and then I can be better at it. I can make a better decision. So I think this is, unfortunately for me, is going to be a lifelong attempt to get better at that. But military guy to military guy, I'm sure you've been in the same situation and done a similar thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that quote. Search for opportunities to demonstrate calm. And I embodied that when I was a leader with my men, who I was charged to lead, and it was a responsibility. And I look forward to talking to the good colonel about that at some point, because it's a great way to put it. And I'm reminded of this moment. I was on an operation, and it was one of these operations where we weren't talking. It was night, it was quiet, and we're moving. We're in vehicles, then we're patrolling, and we're like sneaking up. It was a reconnaissance at first, and we hadn't said a word in hours. And we see some movement. You know, no immediate threat, but you don't know what's there. You don't know what's about to transpire. You know, here we are, and all of a sudden, my point man, the gentleman, the teammate who navigates where we go, kind of scurries over me. Psst, psst. And this is the first thing I'm hearing in hours. He's like, "Sir." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "I don't know if I've ever told you this, but you're a very attractive man." and in that moment, it was perfect. You know, it took everything. It just brought us back to this place. It was hilarious. I almost burst out laughing, which would have been very
You could have gotten killed.
well, yeah. I mean, we were pretty far away, and the sound would not have carried to where the target we were reconnaissancing was. But he did it in such a great way that it broke the ice, and it just galvanized this amazing team unity right at that moment. Like that, it was the perfect thing to hear.
Yeah, so you got to throw that out to Hollywood. That's like a good little, you know, for a scene.
It's a total Hollywood scene, but demonstrate moments where you or identify and capture moments where you can demonstrate calm is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. I got to connect you two guys. We should invite him in on our surgeon and a SEAL. What are we going to let? Do you let jarheads in on the surgeon and a SEAL? What are we going to call him?
If you call him a jarhead, we'll allow it.
So is that a pejorative term for a Marine?
I don't know if they. You know, it's funny. Culturally, the Marines, they're always Marines, but SEALs, when you retire, you're a retired SEAL. So it's kind of like, I don't know who decided those two things, but it's just kind of culturally how it is.
Yeah.
I love the Marines. I've literally deployed with them every single deployment I've ever been on.
Oh.
And when I went into Afghanistan a couple of weeks after 9/11, I was with General Mattis, with his very, very capable men. And we did some great things up there and had a lot of fun.
All right. Well, we're going to have Colonel Vivian on with us at some point and have a little thing. I have one last thing to go over here. And that is the crucible. All right. So we've all, unfortunately, all of us, I think, have had to go through a terribly difficult time that we don't want to. But I have this idea back to the pressure of the difference between graphite and a diamond is just pressure and time. They're both carbon. Again, I'm a geek. I'm a science geek here. So your pencil lead graphite is carbon, and your beautiful diamond ring is carbon, and it's just millions of years of pressure and time is the difference between those two. And so many of us, or maybe somebody listening to this or somebody watching this, is going through a very difficult time. How do you survive that crucible? How do you survive that unrelenting pressure, pain, or uncertainty when you can't see the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, tough question, Allan.
I'm never easy. This is not easy. We're supposed to have answers. By the way, for those people who are watching, sometimes people think, okay, we got a orthopedic surgeon and you've got a retired SEAL, excuse me. But we're still we're very good friends because we learn from each other. So we don't have all the answers. If you have some answers or questions, you can pop it in the comments below about how to deal with unrelenting pressure, pain, or uncertainty. I have one suggestion, and that comes from Viktor Frankl's book, where he talks about being in a concentration camp, and he found meaning in suffering. And the example sometimes that I see in my practice, I see older patients sometimes, and one has Alzheimer's or dementia of another. And one of my patients said to me, she doesn't really know where she is anymore. And I'm really grateful for that because it's bad. Right. And so there's a lot of suffering going on in the caretaker. There's a lot of suffering going on in the person. But he turned it around and he said, I'm sort of glad she doesn't know. And I'm glad I'm here to help take care of her. And I was like, oh my God, I hope I can be that kind of person. And for somebody who's given their life or known somebody who's given their life or, given a limb to our country, their suffering has allowed us to do what we're doing right now. I appreciate everything that you and your teammates have done for our country. And so your suffering has led to our salvation, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to answer your question, which I was about to answer, but
sorry.
You thought I had no answer, but I appreciate you letting me off the hook. For me, I love that he found purpose through suffering. I find opportunity through it. Every great thing we read about, it doesn't happen with a nice, quiet walk down a sunny road. There's a backstory. There was a struggle.
Yeah.
There was something they had to persevere through. And, pressure is a privilege. Billie Jean King sent that text to Maria Sharapova before Wimbledon, and she ended up winning it. Maria, never forget this. Pressure is a privilege. So just like you described, finding purpose through pain, pressure is a privilege. Changing the context of these daunting challenges that are presented to us through happenstance most often, but sometimes we put ourselves there. It's how do you perceive it? Yep. Perception is everything. And if you choose to look at it as an opportunity, something that's going to make you better, grow, and yeah, it might be hard. Yeah, you might get hurt. Yeah, you might have other challenges from this. But if you come out the other side, the glory is there. And I look at it as opportunity.
Awesome. I'm just going to sum up a couple specific, my top 2 tips are to take some deep breaths, kind of like 5 of those. That definitely calms me down, even when I'm over a 5-foot putt or a 3-foot putt, or if I'm watching a football game that's not going the right way. And then stealing my friends, search for opportunities to demonstrate calm. I have a little comma to that. Search for opportunities to demonstrate calm in the middle of a mental hurricane or storm. If you can do that or try to do that, you will become better at it. The process of doing that is something that I'm working on almost every day, failing almost every day, but failing just a little bit less.
Yeah, it's a skill. It's a skill. Well, for me, I'll summarize. I think my 2 biggest points are when uncertainty hits, pressure hits, pain, and all of a sudden it's chaotic, you may panic, take those breaths. While you're doing the breaths, recalibrate yourself and go, okay, there's an outcome I'm after here. Push it off the table. What are those micro actions? Like me, I can pick this pen up. I can do that perfectly. That might be the first micro action. Then I have to go down to the piece of paper, or back to the wide receiver example, run a good route. I can do that. I've done it 10,000 times. Watch for the receiver, watch the ball all the way into my hands. Do each of those micro actions singularly with the outcome off the table, and do it in a way where there's no positiveness attached to it. You're neutral. Process over outcome, neutral thinking are my 2 tips.
Awesome. So thank you everybody for watching this. Please share this and subscribe below if you like this. Send us also or put a message in there for topics for future Surgeon and a SEAL episodes. And Captain Chaby, thank you so much for your time. It's awesome to see you, sir. Whoop. And